to begin by sharing with you a certain perspective of life. And then I'm sure that will provoke a lot of questions, and then we will pick up from there and develop the questions and see where we go. I'll begin by starting a process of introspection by asking a question: who are you? Who are you? I pick on you, you're the closest in front. Tell me. I am so and so. What's your name? I'm Ashna. Okay. If someone calls you by a different name, it doesn't change who you are. So our normal reference point, who are you? We say, I am so and so. I am Sraddhalu. Some of us will say, my name is Sraddhalu. Some will say, I am Sraddhalu. You see a slight difference in the approach. But every time we are referred to with this question, who are you? This is a stock answer. We don't even think too much about it. Suppose I was named differently by my parents. Would it have changed who I am? Even now, if I put an advertisement in the newspaper and say, I hereby declare that my name is, and put some other name, has it changed me? So name is a label that is stuck on my forehead. And sometimes I even have several names. I have a pet name, and my very close friends call me by a different name. Or in a work environment, people might call me sir or ma'am. That's my name then. But it doesn't change me. 4 people may call me by 4 different names. So actually when I ask, who are you? Your name is only a label applied to you. You can remove the label. So you're left with still the same question, who are you? What will you now reply? Just go by your experience. What's your most natural response? I am me. Right? I'm showing myself me. That's my chest. That's not me. I am me? No, that's my head. So how will you reply? There's an interesting incident which was narrated to me by somebody. So he's asked his child, who are you? So his child says his name. He says, no, that's only your name. The child says, me. He says, but that's your chest. He says, but me, that's your neck. So finally, the child says, okay, I have got you an answer. The child didn't have an answer. Finally, the person who's asked this question says, okay, I'll give you an answer. He goes away to another room, calls out by the name, and immediately the child rushes and says, yes, that's you. The person who answered yes. Okay? Can you recognize that? From where does the answer come? Ashna? You say yes. So who answered? Yes. So can you identify that part within you that's answering? Don't give me a name. Can you feel it in yourself? Can you feel who you are that's answering? When someone calls you and immediately you reply, can you identify where the need to reply, the urge to reply comes? That's you. Okay? Where is that located inside you? You feel it here? Okay. The urge from where you give a reply, many of us will feel it here. Some of us may feel it here also, but it varies. But somewhere you feel yourself centered inside your body. So body also, like a name, is something covering you. Okay, you can go still deeper and observe that that person, me, that's answering, I get angry, I am happy, I am sad. Okay, and when I observe carefully, first I think I am getting angry, I am getting sad, and when I observe carefully, after the event has passed, I look back at the anger and I say, I don't know what happened, I just got angry. Anger came on me. I got carried away by the moment. I got carried away by the anger. I couldn't help it. It carried me. You've experienced that? So although you experience anger, you experience happiness, sadness and various colors of emotions, you can actually step back and observe and say, well, actually I am not angry. Anger came on me. Anger is not me. Sadness came on me. I was too swept away in that moment and I was too sad, I couldn't really express myself. So I was too sad but I couldn't express myself. I who wanted to express myself was different, and sadness was like a covering, blocking me from expressing myself. You experienced that? Huh? You experienced how your emotions stop you from actually being yourself? So you find that's another covering. So you have the covering of a name, you have the covering of a body, you have the covering of emotions, and behind that is you. Okay? And still we can dig a little deeper. First of all, does this make sense? Can you identify with it? Can you relate to it? That's your experience? Huh? Okay. Let's go still deeper. Sometimes I forget. Sometimes I'm lost and someone knocks me and says, hey, what are you doing? Sorry, I was daydreaming. I was thinking. I was lost in my thoughts. I didn't hear what you said. Can you repeat it? Okay, and when I am in that daydream, my eyes are open, but I'm not seeing anything here. I'm lost in my thoughts and I'm seeing something totally different, but I am not here. I'm not in this body, I'm not in this location, I'm not in this environment, I am somewhere else. Okay? So you actually are able to float away into some other sense of reality, and you are called back by somebody tapping you. So you are not really bound to this location either. You can as if drift. You don't know where, because you seem to be free of location actually. You can drift into a world of ideas and in which you're thinking. And then you have thoughts which are happy thoughts, unhappy thoughts, disturbing thoughts, confusing thoughts. And you notice that sometimes your thoughts carry you, or you get carried away by the thoughts and you are not actually in control. If a thought is troubling you, it keeps on nagging. And you may even at some point get irritated and say, oof, how do I get rid of this thought? It's bothering me. Okay? So although you have an existence in an awareness which is almost thought-like, thoughts are not you. Thoughts also act like a bit of a covering. You can get involved in the thoughts, get lost in them, or you can stand back and say, I don't like the way I'm thinking and I want to change my thoughts. And you can change the subject, change the thought, push away this, think a new thought. You've experienced that also? You also notice that sometimes you have one set of thoughts on which you are concentrated and you have another set of thoughts going on somewhere in the background. And maybe you are sitting to concentrate, prepare for your exam, prepare for tomorrow's lesson, and your main thoughts are focused on what you are reading, and somewhere at the back There is the jingle of a popular ad which is going on. And it's so strange because it's got just one phrase of the jingle and it's going on. And it sucks energy. You can't concentrate properly. You keep getting distracted. Or at the same time, there is another thought which is, oh, what if tomorrow something doesn't happen? Or you're thinking, oh, I really wish I had gone and watched the movie instead of having to sit here and read. And there are 3 points of thoughts at that point. You're reading, there's this jingle going on, and there's another part which is thinking, oh, I wish I was somewhere else. And there are 3 different points. It's as if you can focus on any one of them, and you are none of them. So we realize thoughts and multiple confusing thoughts are also another mask from which you can step back and choose and play with them. So you can play with how you think, what you think. You can play with how you feel and what you feel. You can play with how you move your body, how you sit. And you can even change your name. You can play with names. They're all coverings, layers. You are behind all this. So, who are you? And maybe at this point you don't have a word. You don't have a vocabulary to express. But can you feel yourself? And how will you describe yourself at that point? Who am I? Can you at least feel it? Maybe you don't have a word. Can you get back to that awareness? You're conscious. Okay, that's first thing you can distinguish. I am conscious. And when I go to sleep, I am not. I'm not conscious. And I don't exist then. Practically I don't exist. I don't even remember what happens during the sleep. Sometimes I have a vague memory of some dreams, but otherwise I am not me at that moment. I don't exist. It's as if I have switched off my existence and switched it back on in the morning. So there's an awareness, and when it's not aware, then I don't exist. So one can even say, I am actually an awareness. I am conscious, and the consciousness is me. Okay, does that make sense? Do you relate to it as an experience? Okay. But still, I observe a little carefully, and I'm able to remember a point where, as I was waking up, I was conscious of a dream. And in that moment, when I was half in the dream and half awake, it's as if the dream was more real than the waking. You felt that? Often? And you're not sure whether that's the real world or this is the real world. This world looks actually dull compared to the brightness and vividness of the dream world, dream state. And it's as if I was actually there in that dream state, and once I've come out of that and I've woken up, I've had a shower, the dream has receded and I don't have it. I am not in it. It's a blank. So I actually realized that yes, though I am a conscious awareness, which I feel had switched off during sleep, actually I was not switched off. I was aware, and even more vividly aware, and I have a vague memory of it. It's as if I have never really stopped being aware. It's just the memory of dream state is different from memory of waking state. You have a mobile phone. On the mobile phone, you can store in your address book, you can store in the SIM card or in the mobile phone's memory. If you take out the SIM card, some addresses go to the next mobile phone, some remain stuck in the memory of the phone itself, isn't it? It's like we have 2 memories. One is a dream state memory, one is a waking memory. And when I'm fully in the waking state, I don't remember the dream state too much. But sometimes it's happened to you. As you were falling asleep, you remembered yesterday's dream. Has it happened to you ever? As you fall into the dream state, as if the memory of that dream state suddenly becomes available to you, for a moment it's as if you remember yesterday's dream which you had forgotten completely when you were awake. And you can even remember the last dream you had and pick up and continue if you wanted to. If you're careful, you observe this happens sometimes. There are two very clear, distinct levels of memories, but my awareness was always there in a different form. So I can now say, yes, I am conscious awareness, that's me, living in this machinery of my thoughts, feelings, my sensations and body and name. And I am actually a pure awareness. And although I don't remember it, I am existing and aware even in the sleep state, but in a very different kind of awareness. Has it ever happened to you that in the dream, you kind of wake up in the dream and know you're dreaming? Has it happened to you? And then what do? What happens?
I had a dream where I woke up in my dream and I told someone about the dream. Yeah. And when I woke up in reality, I remembered the dream and I told someone about it.
Yes. So in the dream, you have woken up, you know you're dreaming, and you're telling somebody about the dream in the dream state itself. And then you wake up and then you tell somebody about it. And it's literally like you have two different worlds of experience. There's the famous story of a king who dreamt he was a butterfly. It was so vivid, so intense. And then he wakes up and finds he's a king. So in the court, he asks this question, which is real? Was I the person dreaming that I am a butterfly? Or am I the butterfly dreaming that I am a king? Which is more real? And you actually have that experience briefly, you don't know which is more real. In the dream state, in fact, now that you are able to remember it, you can remember how much more vivid it is. And it has got its own very intense reality. Did you notice that you can actually change and move objects? Has it ever happened to you in dream? Next time you try that. When you're awake in the dream, you know you're dreaming. Remember this now, you kind of plant it in your inside memory. That first thing you should try to do is try to float off. See if you can float in the air. Has it happened to you that you have dreamt you're floating? And that's also a vivid experience. You can do that in the dream world. You can't do it in this world. But the worlds are very similar. Some differences are there. Yes, that world also will have a table and chair. But this world, I try to will myself to float. I can't. In that world, I can will myself to float and I'll find myself floating nicely, freely. And I can literally fly like Superman through windows and out and see things. The other difference is, this world has a harder objectivity. That is, all of us are seeing two glasses of water. There are two, and they are water. They are clear liquid. Can you will this liquid to become a different color? No, it doesn't work. There's a certain hard rigidity of the experience. But in the dream world, if we're sitting like this and we see two glasses, I can say, oh, but I want to see three glasses, and there will be a third one which will appear. And then I say, I want this to become blue, and the color will change and become blue. What you will, what you intend actually changes the experience of reality. And you will notice that in the dream, if you are afraid that something will happen, it tends to happen. You are approaching a bus or a train, and somewhere inside you wonder, will I be able to catch it in time? What if it starts off and immediately it starts moving? You see some animal, and you wonder, what if it starts chasing me, and immediately it starts chasing. Whatever you intend, whatever you fear, that starts happening immediately. But still, you are experiencing that reality. So there's a continuity of awareness in the waking state, in the dream state. And you are as if wandering between two worlds, day and night. But what are you now? Who are you? I am still this awareness, and this awareness never really goes away. It enters two different worlds for which I have two different memories. They don't always connect, but I am still an awareness, continuous. There's another unique experience which we may not have had, But there are enough people who have had across the world who can vouch for it, and the fact that we see it common everywhere is enough that we can accept. And this is an experience where somehow the body has got a knock and it's injured, it's unconscious, and I find myself floating out of the body and observing the body which has fallen down. They call it out of body experience or near death experience, NDE, OBE. And there are many books in which these experiences have been compiled. In particular, people who have died on the operating table and then come back to life have recounted in great detail everything that happened in between. So commonly the experience is like this. The person finds himself floating out and he sees the body, his own body below. He sees people all around reacting, responding to the body, trying to wake it up, talking among themselves. He registers in detail whatever the doctor is saying, and in many cases the person is able to float away, like in the dream world, float away through the walls, go into other rooms in the hospital, see other things, and come back. And often he's suddenly pulled back violently because they're trying to resuscitate the body, and he's pulled back and he wakes up with a jerk in the body, and he has full memory of everything which was spoken and what he saw. Now at first scientists said, all right, it could be that your brain is hallucinating because it didn't have enough oxygen. Still somewhere inside the brain you're registering everything we spoke, that's how you remembered what we spoke, and all the rest is filled in by the brain like a hallucination. But how do you explain the fact that this person wandered into other rooms in the hospital and described what has happened there, which can be verified? I'll recount two such cases which are part of this book, I believe by Raymond Moody, Life After Life. And in one incident, the person found himself floating outside the hospital, floating up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stories outside, looking at the balcony from outside, like Superman, like what you see in movies or TV serials. And on one of the balconies, he found a blue colored shoe. And he finds himself very close to the shoe and sees a very distinct cut mark on the shoe. And then as he's floating around, he's pulled back into his body. After he's woken up, he describes the whole thing. And then immediately people went up to that particular floor, went to that balcony, found the shoe exactly there with the mark the way he described it. He clearly had wandered out and seen things. Another example is of a person who, having found himself out of the body like this, is pulled across several rooms to another room in the hospital, the maternity ward, where he finds a close friend giving birth to a child, and at that moment he gets a very strong urge to put his head in the head of the child. Somehow something within him resists and says, no, I have to get back, I have work to do, I can't leave now. And he stops himself from getting into the child. And then he is pulled back, he comes into his body, he gets up, wakes up, and he describes this incident. And they go and check that in that very room, as he described, the person he spoke of giving birth to a child, and the child was stillborn. The doctors couldn't make it wake up and cry. You see something very concrete, a very objective experience, verifiable, that we exist and can float out of this personality and this body and survive across what we call death. We only know about it in cases where people have come back. We also, in very, very rare cases, and it's difficult to verify beyond a point, we also have very rare cases where people have gone and actually got into another body and can recollect the full transition from one body to another. Children who remember their past lives and can describe in what way they died in their earlier life and took birth in this. So this awareness that I am speaking of, which is not body, which is not emotions, which is not thoughts, which can go into live between two worlds, inner and outer, can actually disengage from this personality and enter into a new mind, life, body, new life literally, and take birth in a continuity of awareness. Okay? So now I ask you again, who are you? We don't have any more words to describe what it is that we are now talking of, at least not in the English language, or the words are vague. We can certainly refer to it experientially. I am aware, that's me. But I am not yet fully in that awareness in which I can be conscious of the two worlds or step out of the body and wander and return. But yes, that's me, the thing which survives even across death and can change bodies, change personalities, and still be me. Okay? This is a profound question, who am I? And if you can find you, yourself, in this way, not with words but with your awareness, yes, that's me. It's a tremendous freedom. Because you know you can never die. The body can get injured, the mind can get clouded, but I am always. Nothing can take away that. Okay, you knock out this body, I'll take another body and come back. What's the big deal? I am eternal. I feel that. Now, it's not that we all live in that, but all of us are as if a continuation or a projection of that part, which is eternal. And that's why, somewhere in us, we have constantly this vague sense of immortality. There's an interesting question which is placed to Yudhishthira in the Mahabharata. There's an incident where the 5 Pandavas in the forest go to fetch water, and each one going to the water does not return. You heard of this? Yesterday. Okay. Okay. Yes. And the question which is asked, what's the most extraordinary thing? And the answer which Yudhishthira gives rightly is, although each one of us has to die, everybody behaves as if we are immortal. And where does this sense come from? Because the fact is, we are somewhere deep inside the real me, of which right now the me which I feel, which I am aware of, is a kind of a frontal projection which can be withdrawn, which can be dropped, and I can kind of relapse into real me. But right now there's a kind of an extension where I have lost my base of real me, but I am a projection in front. So we give it a name, my self-awareness, which I call ego. There's a word used in the English language which does not have a sufficiently rich vocabulary to describe all these experiences. It's only in the Sanskrit language that you have a complete vocabulary. But the word used is soul. And because the English language does not have this precision of various inner experiences, it uses the word soul very vaguely. So first thing we experience is this. You say, oh poor soul. Okay? Soulful music. What do you mean by soulful music? Music which kind of pulls at my heartstrings. I feel sad, unhappy, or kind of nostalgic. We call it soulful music. Something which touches me deep inside. But by soul normally is meant this kind of a centralized awareness. So when I say, who are you? This I which you feel, that's a soul. The soul, you can say. But Sri Aurobindo makes a distinction, correcting the limitation of the English vocabulary. He calls it desire soul, as opposed to inner or inmost soul. Okay, so desire soul, because the very character of my awareness right now, me, is that I am constantly pulled and pushed by the moment's desires. I want to do this, I hate doing that. All my life is basically defined by this movement. What do I like? What do I don't like? What am I comfortable with? What am I uncomfortable with? And I am literally flowing along the grooves of comfort. In a sense, if you look back at your whole day, everything you did, everything, thoughts, feelings, actions, everything you did was in reaction to something else, or an inevitable result of some habits that you have, preferences, likes, dislikes. Observe your closest friend. You know them so well, you can predict everything they will do, down to details of which words they will speak, when, in what response, how to provoke them to say or do something or not do something. Isn't it? And each one of us is as predictable. It's just we don't want to face that fact. We are mostly lived, we are not living. We are lived by the pull and push of what? My habits, my preferences, likes, dislikes. Okay? What made that? I don't know, I'm born with it. Some of it is shaped by the environment in which I grew up. I have, in a sense, been, since childhood, I was made to eat certain types of food, so I've learned to like these and not like others. On the contrary, since childhood, I was forced to eat certain foods, but I never liked them. So there's something which is an influence of environment, something which is very distinctly me, but still not me. It's like inborn trait. I just never liked it. What's the rationale for it? I don't know. I want to like it, but I can't. I just hate that smell. I hate that squishy feeling, or whatever it is. How many of you like crisp papad? How many like soft papad? And you'll find it's something very distinct. You like it or you don't like it. There's some people who hate papad because it gets sticky in the between teeth. And there's some people who love that stickiness. You have seen on milk the malai that forms. Some people love it, some people hate it. Why? There's no rationale to it. Can you change your like or dislike? Can you do the opposite, learn to hate it or learn to like it? You pretty much can't. You are a slave of this imprint on of your nature. So now we start using two different words. Soul versus nature. The imprint which is on me, which is pretty much swaying me through life, living my life is lived, I don't live it, that's nature. A bundle of preferences, likes, dislikes, habits. And that's what makes me predictable. And then there is me, this conscious awareness inside this bundle that kind of enjoys the wandering that the bundle takes me through. And occasionally I try to extend a choice. And I say, okay, what do you have in your menu? Rasgulla, gulab jamun, jalebi. I like gulab jamun. Someone else says, I like jalebi. So I have made a selection from the menu offered to me. But could I have selected otherwise? Was I really free? My best friend who knows me so well can say, oh, don't worry, he is going to eat gulab jamun. So although I have an impression of having a freedom, a free choice, actually it's the imprint of nature which is pushing even my awareness to make a choice. So there is a soul which is almost enslaved by nature, bound in nature, inextricably mixed and pulled and pushed by nature. All I can say is I am like the backseat driver in this taxi which is driven beyond my control by nature, by my nature. It's going to take me wherever it wants. I can say whether I like or I don't like where it's taking me, but I can't change it. My hands are tied and I'm tied into the back seat. Enjoy your life or don't enjoy, that's your choice. But you can't do what you want to do really, because although you think you have a choice, you are always a victim of your own nature. See, free choice would be when I can actually say, although I normally hate brinjal, Today I'm going to ask for brinjal and enjoy it. That would be free choice, isn't it? Free choice means you should be able to love what you love and not love what you don't want to love. But you can't. Your preference binds you. You are enslaved by it. So it's not a free choice. And now notice the definition we have for freedom. Oh, my parents are pushing me too hard. I want to be free. And what do we mean by that? I want to have the freedom to allow myself to be carried by my impulses and preference or imprint of nature as it chooses. Isn't that actually a greater enslavement to my moment's desire or impulse? Okay, what we normally understand by freedom is the freedom to be enslaved by my desires, by my preferences and choices, by my imprint of preferences, right? I really don't have a free choice. Real freedom would be when I can say, doesn't matter, I am going to choose to enjoy whatever comes my way. That would be real freedom, isn't it? Right now I can't help it. I enjoy this, I don't enjoy that. That's not freedom. So, this frontal awareness that I am completely bound into my nature is what Sri Aurobindo calls desire soul, because it's basically defined by its impulses of desires and its natural imprint. In fact, astrology actually describes this imprint of nature stamped upon you at birth. And it's very interesting how deeply it can describe you as a person. Looking at a chart, a good astrologer can say, oh, this person is always irritable. That person will be always quiet and detached, aloof. This person will be attracted to mathematics and sciences. That person will be attracted to humanities. You can actually describe all this the moment the child is born. Because it's as if at the moment of birth there's an imprint upon you, which imprint is actually unfolding through your life. And all through 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, I might go through life thinking I am a conscious free person when actually I am a conscious enslaved soul, desire soul. And pretty much around the age of 50 or 60, I look back at my life and say, I'm not too happy with what I've done. I wish I could have done this. I wish I was not so bound up in my own limitations, in my own preferences. And it's very difficult to change that. But one thing does happen. Whether you like it or not, life gives you knocks. And sometimes quite severe knocks. Things which you don't like, which you didn't like for a long time, you have now learned to adjust. And you have learned to take it in your stride. Do you find that difference in you today? And as you grow older, you actually learn to step back from your hard preferences and rigidities and desires and accept whatever comes your way and deal with it. You get less and less disturbed or affected by events when they don't go the way you wanted. As a child, you didn't bring my lollipop, and I'm going to cry for the next 3 hours until you get me the lollipop. Today, your mom says, oh, I was going to bring you a lollipop, I didn't bring it. You say, okay, so what? Doesn't matter. Isn't it? The lollipop is not so important anymore, but maybe something else is important. My New Year present which you promised me, that birthday dress, something else is important, but still I am not going to cry for 3 hours. I am just going to stop talking to my mom and pretend to be hurt and make a bit of a show. But somewhere within me I know it's a bit of a show. And as we grow older, we say, okay, it doesn't matter, we'll do it later. It really doesn't matter. Something has happened through the blows of nature. My desire soul, which was bound in nature, has got knocks, and it's kind of loosened up. Now it can move a little bit. And instead of reacting as my nature would be provoked to, I stand back and say, nah, it doesn't matter, it's not a big deal. And there I am able to exercise a choice. This urge to anger comes, Partho spoke to you about that, you're able to step back and say, no, Today I'm not going to get angry. Maybe I apply a control, or even I'm free enough that I can say, no anger. You gradually find your awareness detaching from the identification with nature. Okay? And as you introspect, you will notice that there is a different level of awareness that's already there, which is more truly you. If I asked you this question, how would you really want to live your life? What kind of a person do you really want to be, or you actually are deep inside you, which doesn't come up to the front, which nobody really sees? How would you describe yourself? If you had to list out some keywords describing what you are essentially as a person, and most of us would end up with a description which goes something like this: I am actually a very sweet, gentle, loving, sensitive, caring person. Unfortunately, very few people truly know me. Only my one or two best friends really know this side of me, this real me. Why? Why don't all the other hundreds of people know this? Well, when I actually start interacting with people, because I'm sensitive, I get hurt and I get into this reactive state. That's not me really, I can't help it. I just start reacting. I get upset. But that's not me. And you notice there is an you which you call truly you, and there is this you which people see and experience in interacting with you. And this truly you is inside, which your friends have to be really, really close to you and know you for many years to really know you. And it's nicely hidden inside. And then there is this whole frontal you, which is not really you. Even you don't like yourself sometimes. I don't like this person. I don't like this behavior. I don't like me when I look at me. And you notice a kind of a gap between what you really are, which you really love, and what you are as people see, which you don't always like. And sometimes you need to pretend and cover up what you don't like in your nature in order to make it look more like what you feel inside you, but which is not what it appears. And the need to pretend starts from there. Because I know I am the most likable person, even though nobody likes me in my school. I know I am likable, I am worthy of being liked, and somehow I need to kind of cover up those things which are not likable to bring forward what's inside. I'm not able to do it. I just become a worse hypocrite. But right now I'm a hypocrite because what I am deep inside and I feel myself to be is not how I express myself. I can't help it. I'm a victim of my own nature, my outer desired soul, as distinct from this inner me, which I feel myself to be. Okay, so you are able to stand back and know yourself there, as opposed to know yourself here in the reactive you. So when we ask this question, who are you? Can you distinguish this person on the surface from this person that's really you, which you know yourself to be truly inside? Okay? So there is an outer desire soul, and then there is this inner soul, an inner personality as opposed to an outer personality. But then even that inner soul or inner personality is an expression of something still deeper inside, which you vaguely feel when you're very quiet. And when you're sitting very quietly, maybe something within you comes out as if you feel deeply peaceful or joyous or quietly happy for no reason. And at that point you feel somewhere deep inside that this whole life has a deep purpose. That there's something very important that you have to do. That you are not here by accident. And maybe what you feel cannot be put into words, but you can feel it distinctly. You know that there's something very important, and it's there, felt deep inside, wordlessly. And that points the way to the inmost you, the inmost soul, the real, what we will now call psychic being. Okay, so when we use the word soul, it's a bundle of awareness, but there are three souls: the outer desire soul, the inner soul, and then the inmost soul, which is that which continues even across lives through those different bodies, that it can change. And it's as if this inmost soul takes on all these layers of my mental imprint, my emotional imprint, my body and its imprint, and through it all, it gets chapawed, a name which my parents have put upon me, and through it all, it's entering in relation with the world. But what has happened, because that is there deep inside, all through from that point all the way to the surface, there's a kind of a self-awareness. I am conscious. Though the surface most self-awareness is fully bound into nature and cannot free itself easily. But you are able to step back, shift your awareness to an inner point and observe the surface awareness and say, not good, I don't want to do this, and I can hold, I can apply a will. So it's like the backseat driver now can, as if although bound, reach out and say, stop, you're going too fast, turn left, I don't like this, and the driver may or may not listen. Maybe if I shout loud enough, the driver does listen a little bit. Or maybe I can free out one hand and reach out and nudge the driver. Or maybe I can reach out both hands and take control of the wheel, and those sitting at the back seat guide where I want to go. Okay, that's really what happens gradually across life. As we grow older, we kind of learn to hold back the instinctive pulls and pushes and exercise a freer choice, imposing a will from inside upon the outer instinctive movements. And it's possible to speed this up. The mother observed that when you're 40, you're really beginning to live life. Okay? You're beginning to realize what life is all about. When you're 80, that's when you really know how to live life. But the body doesn't carry easily after that. Okay? But what's the difference in an 80-year-old when she says that's when people really know how to live life? You have grandmothers, grandparents. Observe the difference in their behavior and your parents' behavior and your behavior. What's the biggest difference that you find? Tell me. What are the major differences? They are calmer. Yes, one. Yes? Yes, the way you think. And what's different in their way of thinking and your way of thinking? Okay, they are more mature. What do we understand by mature? I'll come to that. You said? They're more mature. Okay, so what do you understand by mature? What is it that's different? Because mature is just a label. They have experienced, yes, they have experienced a lot more, but how is their behavior different? Because of the experience, something has changed in them. What has changed? Yes? Their perspective has changed. What's the difference in their perspective? Okay, we look at things more negatively, they don't look at it so negatively. Also, their perspective is probably wider, more inclusive, has a wider sense of time. For me, the fact that I have not done well in this year's exams is going to be the downfall of my entire life. And it's as if all these years of existence is now put to waste because I didn't do well enough in my exams. And grandma says, "Nahi beta, you'll do well next year, it's not a big deal." Her perspective is of several years, maybe looking at a whole perspective of the next 20 years. When for me, it's the next 20 days or hours, which is all I live for. Okay, so there's a wider perspective which has come often from the fact that I've experienced life much more. What are the differences? Yes? The amount of desires is very different. They seem to have practically no desires. Yes, they have a few likes and dislikes, but you can ask them to accept practically any situation and they deal with it. And I can go up to them and say, will you give me this, your favorite object? And they'll happily give it when I can't give away something, a trinket even. Okay, that's a big difference. Anything else? They're more trusting. Yes.
More detached from situations. When something happens, they don't really think that they have a petty issue.
Yes.
They just look at it as they're not
Yes.
involved.
Yes. They are more detached. They are as if not so carried away. They have a detached, freer picture and freer response. And the example I gave earlier, what's real freedom? When you can choose to react or not react. And you can change the reaction that you want. And they seem to have a little bit of that. Yes. They're always? Yes, they're always happy and forgiving. That's interesting. And what makes them be like that? It doesn't matter. So many things, it doesn't matter. There are petty things which don't matter. And it comes from this vaster view of life in which trivialities which for us are the big mountain, for them it's okay, it's molehill. Grain of sand, doesn't matter. Cloud, it passes, the sky is wide. No problem. And as a result, they are happier. Yes. They have less expectations. They don't expect too much from life, and so they are not disappointed either. And for me, because every day I'm expecting this to happen or that not to happen, I'm actually miserable each time things don't go the way they are supposed to by my expectation. They're open to change. Yes. Ah. Because they don't expect, the smallest thing can make them happy. Yes. Okay, interesting. Yes. They don't fear death. And we do. We fear it because it's unknown, because for us it's like extinguishing our awareness. Or at least that's how I think it is. But what has happened with them? Why don't they fear it? Because somewhere inside, as they have detached from this enslavement of outer nature in parts of their awareness at least, as they have detached, they are more centered in their inner soul. They are closer to their inmost soul, which has a free sense of timelessness. It doesn't feel itself bound to this personality and form. It knows it is forever. Something of that reflects in the inner consciousness. And because they are in this inner soul, rather than the outer desired soul, they are also more detached, more free, and more truly themselves. With your grandparents, you don't have to know them for 10 years to really know them. You meet them in a few minutes, they're so likable. You know them really. The gap between the outer and inner, the outer nature and the inner personality is not so sharp. Yes. 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 It's not always like this. It's generally like this, that with age people grow to be more the way we have described. Some more, some less. Some sooner, some later. But eventually all of us are as if pushed in this direction to have all the descriptions, all the attributes that we have been listing. And that's what we encapsulate in one word: mature. Life kicks us, knocks us, badgers, pushes, pokes to make us more mature. And by the word maturity we mean pretty much all that we have been describing, that we see in our grandparents. But the indicative age of 80, which Mother pointed to, is the age when it has got a certain concreteness and a fullness of development, where now you really know how to live life, because you can find you're much freer and you can be happy with everything, pretty much. Isn't it? Unfortunately, at the age of 80, I can't do everything that I wanted to do. Because there are also other things which they can't change. For example, grandparents cannot learn easily how to use computers. Because something in the physical brain is so stuck, it's not able to change and learn certain new skills easily. Some of them do. If they try hard enough, I believe all of them can. But somewhere there's a resistance in the biology itself to change beyond a point. And sometimes even in their nature, there are certain peculiarities which have hardened so much, there's almost no hope to change it, even though all the rest has become so much freer. If today we had the maturity which they have at 80, wouldn't that be wonderful? Then you can really live life the way you want to. You can really be what you want to be. Yes. At the age of 80, you often behave a little bit like you're 8. You know why? Because when you're 8, you don't have this layer of pretense. As children, the gap between outer nature and inner is not so sharp. And something in them, it becomes almost childlike. Yes. You don't? Oh, I see. Yes, yes. Yes. Some old people get very greedy and grouchy. He says that's not maturity. Yes, they are more like exceptions, and it often happens during a phase of decline where even their sense of awareness has withdrawn, and it's more the pure habit of outer nature which has taken over, and then it's as if they spiral down after that. But those are more exceptions, and it starts after a certain age as the decline begins. But up to that age, there is a steady appearance of maturity. Then as the consciousness withdraws, as if preparing to leave, then the whole outer nature begins to deteriorate. And also some who have not experienced sufficiently widely life, they have not been pushed by life to that full maturity either. They have been either too protected or they have been too important, so they couldn't get enough knocks. Now imagine a person who from childhood belongs to perhaps the wealthiest family or is the son of a very powerful politician, and as he grows older he keeps getting all the respect and support from nature, circumstances of life, never has a chance to get knocks, never has a chance to broaden, widen his perspective. He remains what he was all through till the end. Yes, there are such exceptions, but broadly we will say, when we look at most people, there has been a maturing. If we had that maturity today, or if we can achieve it in the next 5 years, wouldn't that be worthwhile? Then you can really live life. You can be truly free. And this process of consciously accelerating the growing process or evolution of maturing, conscious accelerated evolution is what we call yoga. To some of you, I have spoken of this earlier, that we do not have to wait for so many decades of knocks from life. We can actually stand back and recognize this deeper psychology and start making a conscious difference now. Start disengaging ourselves from this habitual condition. Start standing back from our own imprinted outer nature and begin to exercise a conscious choice, extending what I truly know myself to be within and making it come upon my outer nature and behavior. It involves two things. One, first, recovering myself. Right now I am so lost in my nature's instinctive reactions, I don't know myself. And I need to kind of step back and find me. Okay, so it's a kind of a stepping back in your awareness, becoming more conscious of yourself more and more essentially, as much as you can. Maybe you go all the way to the inmost awareness or somewhere in between, but enough that you are no more bound in the habits of your nature and lost in your senses. So you step back. And second, each time you step back, you can assert this greater freedom and this greater choice and this more real personality that you are on the outer, and change and mold your habits, your nature, and actually reshape yourself. You can reshape the imprint of your thoughts, the imprint of your emotions, the capacities and limitations of your body. In principle, there is no limit to how much you can reshape. You know, people who train their bodies can push it to such an extreme that even it appears as if the human body is doing something which is not possible by the biological design. You've seen examples of these kinds of skills on television. I saw one live, it was Chinese acrobats, and this was a Chinese girl at the age of 12. She had holding 2 sticks, she was whirling kerchiefs, large heavy kerchiefs. That's great, except that she has 2 more sticks on her legs with which she is whirling 2 more. So lying on her back, 4 sticks whirling away, and then a 5th is put on the mouth and she is whirling with that, with the head. And as we are watching this, she starts turning her body. She's lying on her back, legs and hands pointing up. She starts turning her body and is able to make a complete turn so that she is on her back, on her stomach now, and her hands and legs are pointing behind and still whirling the same things, and then again turn and complete the rotation. And I tell you, when I saw that live, I was jealous. I said, I want to change my body and get into a new body and train myself to be that supple and that conscious. I'm not happy with what I have in my body. So the first thing I did after that acrobatic demo, I went to them. We had a chance to ask questions. First question I asked, how long did it take you to train that? I thought they will say, oh, since they were 3 years old, they have been training. So she says, 2 years. Okay, at the age of 12, the body is much more plastic. The bones are not as hardened as they would be for me at my age. But still, if she could do that in 2 years at that age, maybe if I keep at it for the next 8 years, 10 years, I should be able to achieve it, something of it. Yes, why not? Am I willing to put into it the discipline necessary? If it's important enough, yes, I will do it. But in principle, there's no limit to what the body can do. And even what we experience as degeneration because of age can be stopped and reversed by a conscious effort. I'll refer to one example in our own ashram. A very senior person at the age of 80, he was head of our engineering department. And he found, as most people do around that age, the beginning of a decline of mental faculties. And he says, I wasn't happy with that. And so I took up consciously an effort to counter that. So at the age of 80, he started learning computers. And within 3 or 4 months, his teacher said, I have nothing more to teach, you have learnt everything I know. Because he kept at it. He would read books, he would play things, try new things on the computer. Today I think he's more than 90, 95. His only problem is his eyes have deteriorated, he can't see. But otherwise in his mind he's as bright, as sharp, as clear as he chooses to be. And he's actually reversed the aging process, at least in his mental awareness. And it's possible. And the brain naturally undergoes a change. If we had a CAT scan of the brain for the last 20 years, I think we would have seen a dramatic change. So in principle, I can remold and reshape my whole outer nature to make it more truly what I am in what I feel deep within the inner nature. And even link it all the way to that inmost core of me. And then I can say, I am truly free to do exactly as I want, to be exactly what I want. And if I ask you then, who are you? I am. There's no other word for it. I am. No descriptor is required, because I am and I can be anything that I choose to be. Right? Okay. So in a way, this is the broad trend that life is nudging us towards. We don't have to wait till we are 80, we can start now. And by a conscious process and a discipline, we can become whatever we choose to be. Become ourselves, ideally.